Yay! We're live now. Alright, thank you guys for tuning in. In this stream, we're going to be continuing with the polling app that we built last week, which is what you see in front of you right now. And the purpose of this polling app is to be able to run... Hey Shady, thanks for tuning in. Welcome. The purpose of this app is to be able to run polls very easily without requiring voters to sign up, create an account, and also so that you can then take their votes and match them up with their Discord users in case that you want to draw a prize or something like that. All right. So I think I won the Jose versus Phil poll, but because we're running on Heroku, if we do this, I think we will get an error because Heroku periodically deletes the computer on which the apps run and recreates it whenever the apps get accessed, just so it's free, so it doesn't take up too much of their processing power. So because we're using SQLite, then that feature or that drawback of Heroku has gotten rid of all our polls. And thank you for the like as well. All right, so that's what we've got. But you can have dinner first and then come back. So we're not going to be going anywhere. I'm going to be streaming for a couple hours today, I think 2 hours. So that's the plan at least. So I'm just going to bring up the editor, which was PyCharm, I believe, that we were using last time. And we're also going to try out a couple of things in the app, see if we can find any bugs. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a new poll. So this is going to be test poll 1. And this is going to have 2 options, so we're going to submit that, and it seems to have worked. And I'm going to name these like that. So we've got our 2 polls. So now whenever we log in with Discord, we're going to authorize that, and we automatically get the test poll 1. So why is that? Well, the reason we get test poll 1 is because when we go to authorize, which is the endpoint that gets called when Discord gives us the token that we need, what we're doing is we are selecting star from polls, order by poll ID, and we are just fetching 1. So I would have expected here to get poll 2, not poll 1, which means that when we do order by poll ID, that's getting back all of our polls, but it starts off as poll 1, then poll 2, then poll 3, and so on in the order in which they were added. And then because we're doing limit 1, we're just getting the first poll. Hey, Rio Deo. Thanks for tuning in, man. Welcome. Let me know, guys, if other than Shady, you guys are seeing a lot of buffering, because my connection is not the best, so maybe it's struggling to keep up. It does say there are no dropped frames. All right, Shady, don't worry. We can let me know when you come back, and I'll cover what we've looked at. So we're doing order by poll ID, and what we're going to do is we're going to add a DESC there for descending, and that's going to sort the polls by largest first, or the poll IDs by largest first. All right, thanks, Omar. No buffering and loading fine. That's good. Good to hear. Thanks. By adding the descending there, we're going to end up here with the latest poll added rather than the first poll added. So that will be what we want there. So that's a small bug fixed. Then we're just going to vote for something. Another small bug, by the way, is that by clicking on the square, you can't actually vote, but by clicking on the text, you can. So that's a small problem there. So it says you voted for 2, which is good. That's what we've got at the moment in our code. Whenever you vote, then the return of this endpoint is you voted for whatever it is that we voted for. So that makes sense. And then we're always inserting the vote into poll ID 1, which is definitely not what we want, as all the votes are going into poll ID number 1, which is not great. So let's take a look at that in action. At the moment, we've voted for option 2 in poll 1. If we now go and view poll 1, we will see that number 2, the option 2, has 1 votes. So this is not an amazing, and I know that you guys can see that well, this is not an amazing user experience, but nonetheless, let's try to vote on another poll and see what happens. So let's go over to /poll. We'll go to /poll/2 for poll number 2, which is this one here. And now we're going to vote for test 1 in poll 2, which says you voted for 3, which makes sense because this was the third option to be added to the database. Poll 1 had 2 options, and this is the third option, which is in poll 2. But now if we go to view 1, which is poll 1, we'll see that it says that 2 has 1 vote and 3 has 1 vote, even though 3 was in poll 2. And that is because it wasn't. 3 and all options are being added at the moment into poll ID 1. So we do want to fix that. What we're going to do here in order to fix that is we're going to go to /vote/int poll ID, and we're going to pass in the poll ID here, and we're going to pass it in here as well. So whenever the users press the submit or the vote button, we're going to be sending them over to the poll that is the correct poll. In order to do that, though, we are going to need something which is a little bit hacky in most HTML. When we go to the latest.html, which has a terrible name, this is the voting template. You can see that we've got a for loop that goes over the different options in the poll and then creates a checkbox for each option. And then we're going to press the submit button, and that is going to actually send the vote. And that sends the data in these options, or rather the data in all fields of the form, to /vote. So now what we have to do is when we send the data to /vote, we have to make sure to include there the poll ID. So how do we do that? Well, we'll say that the action is URL for vote, but here we can pass in arbitrary arguments, and what that'll do is it'll essentially fill in this argument here, if it's possible. If it's not possible because this argument didn't exist or something like that, then what it would do is it would add a query string parameter. So if there is an argument here, poll ID, then URL4 will turn this into /vote/2, for example. But if there wasn't a poll ID argument here, like if we deleted, then it would do /vote/poll ID or $poll ID equal to. So those are the two options in there. And because we've got that, then it's going to pass it in. So that's going to be really helpful to make sure to get the poll ID value in there. Of course, poll ID, the value itself has to exist in this template. So when we go to app.py and we load the template, we do need to pass in poll or the poll ID. And how we're going to do that is we're actually passing the entire poll here, and poll has a field poll ID. So actually we can do poll.pollID, and that's going to use the object that we passed in here. Can we do that actually? No, because poll is a list. Poll is a list of options. So yeah, we're actually going to pass it as a separate variable there. So we'll save that, go to app.py, and in here we'll do poll ID equal latest poll ID, which is the one that we've gathered there. And in here, where we also render the same template, we'll do poll ID equal poll ID, which is what we pass in to actually render the poll itself. Yeah. I think that should be what we need. All right, so that's going to take care of the votes going to the right poll, which is good. We do want that. The next thing we can do is we can make sure or try to display this in a bit of a nicer way. So now what we're going to do is we're going to run the local server instead of using Heroku. And just so we can actually run the code here. If we run it on Heroku, we have to send the code to GitHub and then ask Heroku to deploy it before we can use it. So we don't want to do that. Here in create tables, we're going to add options if not exists, so that we only create these tables if they don't exist already. There we go. So now we're running locally, which is a little bit better. Again, we're also missing a navigation bar that we can use to easily move between different pages in our app. So we're going to add that first, just so it's a little bit easier to actually move around. So going over to navbar.html, and here in the menu items, I'm just going to copy some of these and change them to the different endpoints that we've got. So at the moment we have a few endpoints. We have an endpoint to view a poll. We have an endpoint to vote on a poll, and so we have an endpoint to actually view the poll as a voter. We have an endpoint to vote on a poll, and we have an endpoint to view a certain poll as an admin, and then we have an endpoint to create a poll. So let's create a link in our navigation bar for this create poll there. So what we'll do is we will make the href URL for create poll, and that's the function name in our app, and not the endpoint name. So that's the function name, and Flask is then going to be able to backtrack and see what endpoint is associated to which function. And so it's going to send us there in here, and this is going to be create poll, for example. Yeah. We're not going to have links for viewing or voting because those need a specific poll ID. So those are going to be for sharing with other people later on, as opposed to for us being able to access. So there we've got the create poll, and you'll see that these menu items are one beside the other. We do want to change that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a login class to the login with Discord menu item and not add it to the create poll menu item because I want them to look slightly different. So I'm going to use this difference to actually cause that different look. If I go to the CSS and then find the menu item, where's the menu item? Should be around somewhere. No, I've just header A. So this is okay, a hover, but we're gonna do .login. And we're actually going to put the border on the login, but not on the other menu items. So now we need to disable the caches, otherwise the CSS will be cached and use the previous one. And now you'll see that the create poll button doesn't have a border, but the login with Discord does. However, you'll also notice that the text is not aligned anymore. That's because the login class, so the login with Discord, has this border which pushes the text up, and the other link does not, which then actually moves the text down a little bit in relationship to the other one. So we'll actually do border bottom 2px solid, and then we'll do RGBA 0000, I believe. Yes, that's it. So what this does is it sets a black border but transparent. That's what the last 0 means. It's the alpha value. Hey, Dane. Good to see you here. Thanks for tuning in. And UJ, hello as well. I don't know why you're having serious connections issues, but I don't think we're dropping any frames. No, we've not dropped any frames whatsoever, so it must be your connection. I did wonder about streaming on a different platform, though, if you guys have a lot of problems, because Shady was also having some problems as well. You have no sound. Hey, Grimsy, how are you doing? I think it is... I think so. Yeah, it's just you. I have sound, so it must be some sort of connection issue. Anyway, so what we're doing here is we're setting a border on everything. Only the border is transparent unless we have the login class, which the login with Discord menu item does have. So when we go back here, now you'll see that they are aligned. Yeah, I don't know why you guys keep freezing. Maybe YouTube streaming is not so good. I was looking at a lot of other coding streams, and most people seem to stream on Twitch. So maybe that's where we should go to. Apparently it's much better than YouTube Live. Anyway, so the next thing is gonna be to separate these two a little bit. Oofed. So what we're going to do is for each menu item, we're just going to add a small margin on the left. So we'll grab the header A here, and we'll say margin left 20 pixels. And that's going to separate them a bit. Just like that when you're at 100%. So create poll goes over to the create poll page. Login with Discord will actually ask. Yeah, YouTube is much more popular for non-live videos, absolutely. But we could always take the live videos and record them and edit them and then put them into the YouTube channel. After all, nobody on YouTube wants to watch the 6-hour streams anyway. Those don't get any views. Let's clean this up a bit as well. So that template, I'm just going to close all of these. That template was the create poll template, where each field is inside its own div and has a label and an input. So we're just going to clean it up a little bit by giving it the treatment that the not the create poll, but the view poll this has. And so we're going to go ahead and give that a go. What font is the coding font or the website's font? Hey Grimsy, thank you for joining the course, man. Really appreciate it. I hope you will enjoy it. Do join the Discord if you haven't already, because that's where all the chatting takes place. So at the moment we've got the options class in the latest.html that takes care of formatting the things inside it with the border around it and the background color. We're going to do something similar. So instead of calling it .options, what we're going to do is we're going to move this to the container, and then we're going to get rid of this there. What that's going to do is when we go to create poll now, we're going to be looking like this. Here, though, we do need to add a bit of spacing between this element and the menu bar. So what we had before was this. We are going to make sure to change the margin. So it's no longer 0 auto, it's going to be 50px auto. And that's just going to push it down a bit. Yeah, Grimsy, the complete Python course, by the time you're done with it, this will make a lot more sense. We do go into some Flask towards the end of it, so we'll be doing a lot more of these streams anyway. This is just after hours streaming for me, just having a bit of fun, making some internal tools, I guess. But yeah, feel free to tune into the Discord and ask any questions there you've got about the course or anything like that. We're always more than happy to help out. So now that we've got this set of styling here, this is looking a bit better. And the web app font is one called Public Sans. So Public Sans. A strong neutral typeface made by the United States government. It's actually made by the US government, but it's open source, and it's quite nice. All right, so now we have to separate these options a little bit and hopefully align these text fields. So let's go back in here in style.css. And this CSS file is looking a bit bad now, but we're going to split it out and clean it out later. And so in here, we're going to go ahead and not latest, but here. Like that. The font in the logo and thumbnails is Rubert, which is the Teclado font. So that's the font we use in the thumbnails and everywhere on our site is called Rubert, which is this one here. Unfortunately, this is not free or open source. It's the same font that Twitch uses, actually, although we did it first. I can only assume they saw the blog and were like, oh my god, this is so amazing that we have to use the same font. All right, so let's separate these fields a bit. How we're going to do that is each form input element, which is one of these divs, is going to have a little bit of margin bottom. Let's say 20 pixels again, just to keep things simple. That's going to separate them slightly. That may be too much, actually. Let's do 15. Yeah, Twitch definitely saw the blog there. Now we need to align these fields, but that's actually not as easy as it may sound. Not as easy as it sounds. So we're going to do some Googling. Align fields on form. You see now. All right. Let's see what this does. Oh, yeah. So this is an option. If you put the fields underneath the label, which is a pretty popular approach, then aligning them is really easy, of course. This person is using a table, which is not very nice. A simple solution is to use a table for everything. No, thank you. We don't want to use a table. You should use a table. Although that makes sense because it is what makes sense. All right. So the two options are, it seems, to either use a table, which makes sense because when you want to align all of these things together, really what you end up having is a sort of table layout where each column takes up a certain amount of space, the width of the widest element, and these take up the rest. Or the alternative is to put them one on top of the other. And so that's what we're going to do. We'll do that just so it's a little bit easier. And what we'll do is say form input label display block. And what that achieves is it makes the labels take up 100% of the width, which automatically moves the field underneath. Now we're going to change these fields a bit. We've got the design here. And in the design, actually, we use this approach. So here the fields look like that. I'm not a big fan of it. We're gonna use a slightly different approach in terms of the color of the background of the fields. We're gonna use this color for the background of the fields, sort of bronze type color. So we'll go here and we'll say form. I think actually the inputs we put down here. So we'll say input type equal text, background color will be that. So now if we go here and we inspect to disable the cache, you've got that. You do have to make a few changes. You have to do border none, and that gets rid of the borders. But we do want a solid 1 pixel border, which is going to be black. So we'll do border 1 pixel solid black. There we go. Now the text here, I think, actually the text there is all right, but the text in here is not. It's a different font, first of all, and it looks a bit squished. So we're going to add a little bit of spacing. So what we'll do is say font family public sans serif. Padding will say 5 pixels. There we go. Hey James, welcome. Thank you for tuning in. And so now we've got this, which is a little bit better. Something else we can do is we can add just a tiny gap between the label and the field. So we'll go into our labels and say margin bottom 5 pixels. There we go. And now we are going to increase the separation because we've added a little bit of margin between the label and the input field. And now this group is very close to this group. And so it's starting to be a little bit difficult to differentiate between the two. So by including a little bit more gap between the two, it's going to just separate them a bit more. All right, so we've got that, and these fields are a little bit small, so you can make them a bit bigger. With something like width 50%. Now width 50% is okay for something like this. As the screen diminishes in size, the fields are going to get smaller, and as it grows, they're going to get bigger. All right. In the last video, we moved the submit button to the right for the voting. So I think we should do the same thing for the submit in here. The way we did it before was by adding a write button container class in a div around the button that would justify the content to be at the end. So we'll do the same here. We'll do div class equal that, and we'll put the button inside it. There we go. Now the button is on the right. Okay, so this is just a slightly nicer way of creating the polls rather than just having the HTML. Let's create the two options, and that's it created. Obviously, when you press submit, staying on this page is not ideal because now you don't even know the ID of the poll you've just created, so there's no chance that you can share the voting link with anyone else. So the best thing to do is going to be when you submit, you want to redirect to the voting page. Hey, Somalanka, welcome. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you. So when you press submit, we're going to redirect over to the voting link. So we're going to go into app.py. And here, when we create the poll, you can see that if the request method is post, i.e. we've just submitted the form to create a new one, we're executing all the code that we need in order to create the form in the database, but then we are sending the users back to the same template that we had before. And we don't want to do that. So inside the if statement, but not inside any of these context managers, we're going to return a redirect to URL4 of the vote. This one, poll. Poll, and poll ID is going to be equal to the last inserted ID. There we go. So we do need to import these two things, which we will do here. All right. So let's go ahead and, yep, that makes sense. Go to create poll. Press submit, and you can see that we've got clearly some sort of small bug here because we created the poll and this was not the first poll to be created, and yet we are ending up in /poll/0. In order for us to end up in /poll/0, that means that this variable must have had the value 0. So probably not what we want. That means, though, that this statement returned 0. And so let's try that out. We're on debug mode, so I'm just going to put a breakpoint in here and then go back to create poll. We're going to test another poll. And so I press submit, nothing seems to happen because we're stopped in the breakpoint here. You can see that in the request, which we can evaluate here, we've got a bunch of stuff. And one of those things is going to be the form. And in the form, we've got the title of the poll that we're creating. And then we've got the various options. So we've got option 1, which has the value of poll. Option 2, which has no value. Option 3, which has no value. Option 4, which has no value. And so we're creating a poll with a single option there. But what we want to do is we want to make sure that this here is actually returning what we'd like. And you can see that this is returning 0, which makes sense. This is what we knew already was happening since we ended up with the value 0 before. Therefore, this must be returning 0. Which means that this last insert row ID is not doing really what we thought. So let's take a look. The database should have, the test another poll is has been inserted, and that has the poll ID of 6. So that means that the insertion which happened up here did work. which is good. But it does mean that select last insert row ID did not work. So we're going to try to do some Googling and see if we can find why not. All right, so it seems that this may be another way of doing it. We've got some documentation here. We can probably try to use that. We can try to use that. So we're going to do cursor equal that. And we're going to get rid of that two connections there. And here, instead of select last insert row ID, we're going to do last insert ID is cursor dot last row ID. Is that what it's called? Last row ID. Yeah, that's right. Which means that because this is a simple assignment, we can just copy that and put it in there and get rid of that. Oh, no, we can't because we do need it down here. So we will bring it back. There. Okay, let's restart and see if that works. Okay, it seems that we did end up in poll 7 and we do have our two options there. Now we can go into the options table and make sure that the poll ID is correct. So earlier on we had some poll IDs here. Then we inserted a bunch more poll options and they all ended up with poll ID 0, which means something was wrong. But now these two do have the poll ID 7, so that's good. What I'm going to go ahead and do is stop this app from running, delete data.db because it seems it has some corrupted data there. You don't want to be dealing with that in your application. It could, oh, you can't delete that because we're still connected. Let's see if we can do it now. There we go. Now we'll run this again. Data.db should be recreated. There we go, which means we can reconnect in here, and we are connected now. So if we reload the options, then you can see it's empty. So now this is getting a little bit messy there, but we've managed to fix quite a few bugs right now and also make this look a little bit nicer. Also, we've added a menu item in there. So now all you have to do is copy that link, send it to whoever, however many people you want them to vote, and that'll be that. And now the next thing though is that if you try to vote and you're not logged in with Discord, then this won't work. So how we're gonna do that? Well, of course, this won't work now because we've just deleted the database, so we do need to create a new poll. So let's create a new poll saying Discord versus Slack. Discord, Slack. So now we have this poll here. If I copy that and I go on an incognito window and I try to vote, ta-da, error, because we're not logged in with Discord. And so we should require login before we allow users to submit. And so how are we going to do that? Maybe this submit button should be grayed out. But if the submit button is grayed out, users may think that something's broken as opposed to that they need to log in first. So let me think. maybe what we should do is grey it out and have a small message to the side of it. That seems like it would be simple enough to do. Also, when they are logged in, we should change this so it no longer says login with Discord. So let's do those two things. First of all, we're going to fix the menu, because that's going to be a bit easier. So, when a user logs in, I'm not sure if you guys remember, we store some things in the session. A session is a per browser storage, essentially. So Flask stores some data. Hey, Yasir, how about if the user hasn't logged in already, then our app asks the user to log in when they press submit? That would be a good one as well. Can we do that? The reason why I'm wondering whether we can do that, by the way, is because here in Discord, when you authorize, Discord will redirect you back to a certain address, and it has to be one of these addresses. Yeah, actually we could do it. Yeah, I think we can. That's a good idea. So here's my thinking there. Let's say the user arrives at this page without logging in. Then they press submit. We would then send them off to Discord for authentication. That's what happens when you press the button. However, when they reach Discord, we're handling the authorization, so they'll press the button saying that yes, they allow us to access their data, and then Discord will send us back to one of these addresses. At that point, the user is no longer in /poll/1. Therefore, we don't know which poll they want to vote on. So even if we send them back to a certain page, or we want to do something with the information that we had before, we no longer have it at that stage. So instead, what we can do is when a user arrives at a certain poll, we can store in their browser what poll they were trying to vote for. Then when they press submit, we will authorize them with Discord, and then we'll send them back to the correct poll. Or probably, like you say, Yasir, we should send them back to the vote. So the first step in that, before we do that though, let's fix the menu. So that's what we were doing earlier on. But that's a very good idea, which we are going to implement. So here we have the login with Discord. But what we can do is we can say if not session username, then we show that, else, and if. And what we're going to do here is we are going to show logged in as session username. Just like that. Straightforward. So now you can see it says logged in as JSLVTR instead of login with Discord. So that's step one done. And this is how you can know whether a user is logged in, whether you have a session's username set. So that brings us back to the previous thing. Whenever we are arriving at the poll, what we're going to do is we're going to store in the session the poll that they were trying to vote for. So we'll do session poll ID is going to be equal to poll ID. Okay. Now what that means is if we click the submit button but they were not logged in, we're going to send them to the authorize endpoint. Even when they come back to this endpoint here, the session will still have the poll ID that they tried to vote for earlier on. And so we can use that when we're in this code. So what we want to do is, if the poll ID is set, no, we don't want to do that. What I was going to say is, if the poll ID is set, we want to move them directly to the vote. Or we want to actually make use of their vote. But we can't, because when we send them to the login, we will lose the form information that is these checkboxes. So the best we can do, I think, is going to be when they press the submit button, we will send them to login with Discord, and then we'll bring them back to this poll page. I think that's the best we can do. And that means that when they come back from Discord, if the poll ID is set, we will send them to the appropriate page. So we will do if session poll ID, then we will return a redirect to a URL for poll, where poll ID equal session poll ID. Otherwise, we will get the latest poll. Okay, so that's that, which means that if they access a poll and then they press login with Discord, we will still send them back to that poll instead of the latest one, which I think is a good side effect, actually, of this piece of code. But the next thing we want to do is, when they press the button, we want to make sure to send them to the login with Discord if they are not already logged in. So we've got this here, and what we want to do is we want to say if session username, then we will show the input, otherwise end if. And in the otherwise here we will put an A, where the href is equal to what we have in the nav bar. So we'll do something like this, except we want to make sure that this link, form submit login link, we want to make sure that this link looks like the button. So here's what I mean by that. Let's copy that, go to an incognito window and go there. Now we've got it right that the link shows up, but it doesn't look like the button. So it's not like users are going to click it by accident. So what we can do is instead here say log in to vote. So we'll show that. And now we want to make it look exactly like the button did. So we'll go over to style.css, and here we've got the input type submit styles. We're going to apply them to also this class there. So that's looking a bit better. We'll do text decoration, no, decoration none. Just like that. And the color is going to be black. And now we also have to do form submit login link active and set the color to black. Otherwise it's going to look purple. I'm not sure you can see the purpleness right now all that well, but it will look purple if you've ever visited that page before. So we do want to make sure that we're setting it to black. So now this looks exactly like the submit button, except when you click it, it should send you over to the Discord URL, but it won't at the moment because we don't have it. So this is here trying to access the Discord URI. Discord URI is used in the home page, but it's not used anywhere else, as you can see. So we do want to pass it in. At the moment, I'm going to do something pretty naive, which is I'm going to just pass it in as an endpoint whenever we, well, really everywhere, in all the render templates. We're going to pass it in. This is not great. I'm sure that you can see why it's not great. Not there. What am I doing? Just this copy pasting of code, but you know, it's gonna be okay for now. Just making sure that we haven't missed any places, and it seems we haven't. So now we should be able to press login to vote. And we can. Except this redirect URI here is incorrect. So we do have to fix that. Okay, there we go. I'm in an incognito window, so it doesn't know who I am, but that's okay. We can go back into here. And now you can see the submit button does appear. So we got that working. That's a very good idea. Yes, here, if you're still around, thanks for the comment. I think that's good. If you're around, what do you think of the solution? Do you think it's more or less what you had in mind? Anyway, so now we have the ability to create polls, log in. This looks a little bit nicer. We can log in before being able to submit a vote. We'll then have to vote again when we come back, but that's probably okay. It's a small amount of friction. The last thing is the viewing of the polls. So this does not look great. At least we've managed to make the style a bit more generic, so now it looks a bit nicer. But we should have some nice looking graphs in here, more or less like the ones that we have there. So by the way, this is a new design that I've been working on. Just ignore it for now. It just looks a little bit more fun rather than a bit so serious. But yeah, so what we want to be doing here is we want to show all of the options that are available to us in the poll. So let's see how we can do that. Because when you view a poll, it should give you the different options. Like Discord and Slack, but it doesn't seem to. So let's go into our database, look at the options there. So we've got Discord and Slack have a poll ID of 1, but for some reason they were not being, or they're not being counted here. So let's have a look at why not. I'm gonna put a breakpoint there. So now I've reloaded the page and I'm stopped here, and we can grab that and run it, and you can see that we get nothing back, which is interesting. Probably because there are no votes. Probably because there are no votes, but that does seem like a bit of a limitation. So let's grab this query and run it. Here. Oh, that's nice actually. 1. Yeah, so we get nothing. And if we remove the group by, oh yeah, that makes sense, that makes sense. So this is getting the votes, not the options. So we do need to change a couple of things in here. So the moment this query is going into the database and selecting the votes, as well as the count per vote, which means that if nobody votes, you can't see any details. And what we want to do is we want to make sure to be getting the options and the number of votes for each option. So let's figure out how we would do that. Because clearly, at the moment, there are no votes. So what we want to do is we want to do select. Let's do select star from options. This is our sort of part one of our query. I like constructing these queries incrementally. So when you do select star from options, this is going to give you the different options. So we do want to filter by poll ID. So we'll say poll ID equal 1. Let's do that. This will be a question mark in our Python code, and we will be passing in the poll ID that we want. But we don't want to limit ourselves to selecting the options, because that's only going to give us the 2 options or 3 or 4 options for a query or for a poll. And so we do want to say select star from options, join votes on options poll ID equal votes poll ID. So that's going to give us all the options. Select star from options where options.poll ID equal 1. That's going to give us, this would give us all the rows in the options table, and attached to it would be the rows in the votes table if there is a row in the options table that has the same poll ID as a row in the votes table, and if there's more than one, then the options would be duplicated. This is what join does. But if we do left join, then we're going to get the options, and no matter what, and then we'll get associated data to each of those options if there is some. But in this case, we have no votes, so this is all null. It's important to know about these joins. So we'll do count star, where options poll ID is that, group by votes vote. There we go. No, this doesn't make sense. There, that makes more sense. So this is going to give us something that is not quite what we want, which is the option, and it'll show at least one option, but it won't show the other one because neither of them have votes. So we're doing something a bit weird here. We should be able to do something better. So let me get rid of that. So if I get rid of that, then we get this. Oh, okay, I understand. We want to group by option text. Yeah, there we go. So the reason why it wasn't working earlier because we were grouping by the vote, which is null. So it was saying, okay, you want to separate the results into groups where each group is for a given value of vote. So at the moment, there is only one group of values for the vote column, which is null. So it was just grabbing the first result in the options column and treating it as the value in here. But if we group by option text, then we do end up with the 2 different groups, Discord and Slack. And then we'll grab just any value from the votes column. But at the end here is where we're going to get the count of all the votes in the group. At least let's try it out. Let's see if that's true. So I'm going to copy that as my thing here, and we're going to use option text. There. So we're going to get Discord and Slack and the count. As count. There. So this is going to be our query. And we're going to put it into a multi-line string there. Like that. We can get rid of that. Just make sure to do a little bit nicer there. There we go. We've got ourselves our query there. And now this result is going to have two columns, the option text and the count of votes. And so that's going into votes in there, which means when we go to a view poll, we will have option 0 and option 1. So that's correct. Okay, let's go into here. And we missed something clearly. The poll ID has to be a question mark. It's loading. Oh, we're stopped here. That's okay. Let's continue. Yay, there we go. So we've got ourselves our results. Now let's see if it's actually working. I'll go into poll and I'm going to vote for Discord. So I voted for 1. Oh, I can't do a get here. We have to go back to poll and I vote for Discord again. And now we'll go to view. We're stopped at the breakpoint. Let's continue. So it didn't quite work. It didn't quite work because the query is counting all the votes as opposed to only the ones for each option. And so it's saying that for each option is getting the whole count, which is all of the rows that are in a given result set. But we can do that, I'm sure we can. SQL count group by, I think it's called having. There we go. I think this is what we want. No, this is a filter. This is not what we want, I don't think. Weird. Let me bring this query back to the console. Oh yeah, it's not poll ID 1, is it? Count with distinct. It is poll ID 1. Let me see. Oh, that did work. I guess we messed something up earlier. So you're saying that it will count star correctly? No, it won't. Count with distinct rich. How do you mean? I'm not sure. Count with distinct. That seems like it might be what we want. I don't think I've ever used that before in my life. Distinct. What do we want to count distinct as? Distinct votes. Vote, maybe. No, distinct options, option text. yeah, that makes sense. Does it? So this is what we're getting back. This is the whole result. Rich, save me. How would you build this? This can't be right. Yeah, so the vote happened for 1. Ah. Haha. I made a mistake. We joined on the wrong thing. Yeah, so we joined on the wrong thing. So there you go. We were joining votes to options based on them having the same poll ID, but really we wanted to join votes to options based on the vote being for a specific option. So I think that was the error. Now if we do count star, I think it'll be correct. Almost correct, almost correct. But it's still showing 1 vote there. Count, because we don't want to count star, we want to count votes dot vote. Yeah, that's it. Yes. Okay, that makes sense. But thank you, Rich, for telling me about distinct. I didn't know that that existed. But now I do. So I think this is what we wanted. So we're selecting the option text and the count of votes for each option, but we've made sure to join on the correct thing. Whereas before we were joining on the same poll, which they were always going to have because we're filtering by poll. Now we are joining on the votes being joined to the options on the right row. So my bad there, but that's okay. We've now fixed that. We can close this. Now we can go to view and we get the correct thing out. And so Discord has 2 votes, Slack has 0 votes. I would love to send you guys this poll, but of course this is running locally, so you can't get access to it. Next up, let's create some nice charts like we do see here. It's actually going to be really easy. So, how are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? So clearly showing option 1, option 2, and the number of votes is pretty easy. Now we need to calculate the percentage that each option is out of the total. Don't know if SQL is going to do that for us. What do we think? Can we get SQL to calculate a column for the percentage of one field out of the total? Not sure if we can. I'm certainly not skilled enough with SQL to be attempting that, I don't think. But we can Google it. SQL count as percentage of total. There we go. Stack Overflow has all the answers. Hey Giovanni, thanks for tuning in. We are trying to get SQL to calculate the percentage of votes that each option has from the total. So you're selecting grade and the count times 100 divided by sum of the count. God knows what over does. SQL over. It seems to be a SQL Server thing. I don't imagine SQLite is gonna have it. Maybe it does. But to be honest, we're gonna have such few options that calculating it on Python is probably gonna be much easier. We're gonna have like what, 2 options, 3, 4 maybe 10 if it's a very large query. But nonetheless, I am curious. So let's try it out. Okay. Imagine this works. That did give me 100. The power of Stack Overflow. Can you guys imagine this actually works? Let's vote for Slack and see if we get 3367. So I voted for 2. That's amazing. That is honestly amazing. My LinkedIn is JSLVTR. I can link it. Let me see if I can link it. Although I don't really use it, but yeah, so SQL can do that. That's pretty amazing. I don't know what this over function does. There's some talk about being a window function, whatever that means. But anyway, that's in a to-do list now to learn what it does. For now, though, let's use it. Which means we now have 0 as the option text, 1 as the count, and 2 as the percentage, which is actually even better. Because now we can go to view poll, and we can start to format it as we had before. So that's, for each vote, we're going to have 3 divs. Div class vote name, which is going to be option 0. Then we're going to have the percentage, which is 2. Now if we go here and we view, we can see that we've got the Discord and Slack. But we're going to use some Ginger to filter for rounding, which I guess is round. Like that. Perfect. 67.0, 33.0. Brilliant. And finally, we've got a div class, which is the vote chart. And this div here will be a rectangle that grows depending on the percentage. So what we're going to do here is we're going to inline a style, which is not great, and we're going to do width is equal to option 2 round 0%. So look at that beauty. Okay, so we've got this, if I inspect, this does have a width of 67%. Yeah, so you can see that the vote percentage is 67.0, and the width is 640. But then the vote chart is 428.8, so that's 67% of the width. And in here we have the 33% one, which is 211. Now all we have to do is give this div a height and a background color, and it'll show up as a bar chart. So that's a pretty simple bar chart there. So we'll do something like vote percentage, and we'll do height 1 rem, which is the letter of the height of one letter. Background color is going to be black. We do need to delete the cache, and there we have it. However, for some reason, it's not appearing underneath the others. Okay. We'll fix that. The next thing is going to be to grab these three, vote name, vote percentage, and vote chart. So inside vote option, we're going to make this a flex container, and we're going to align them to be in one line. So we'll do vote option, display flex direction row, and then we'll do vote name. Actually, do we need all that? That's good. Oh yeah, they should be vote chart, not vote percentage. That's my bad. Guys, you should have noticed that. That's why I was going black. So there we have that. Now we have to make sure that flex grow here is going to be 0.25. For vote percentage, flex grow is going to be 0.25. Actually, that's all wrong. Vote chart is going to be flex grow 2. And these are just going to be 1. Not exactly what I was hoping for, but align. And the next thing is we want to align them so that they're left aligned. Does that make sense in here? It probably doesn't make sense. And it doesn't make sense because we want the charts to be always the same size. Yes, we want the charts to always be the same size, but we want something inside the charts to have the extra width there. So we're gonna cut that. And in there, we're going to put the div. Yeah, this'll do it. Almost. I almost did it. But I didn't quite do it. So we've got the vote name, which is 194. This one, which is 168. And this one, which is 276. That doesn't make any sense. So maybe we don't want that. Okay. That'll do it. Although, doesn't look the best. But anyway, we do have charts. So clearly one is twice the size of the other, so I'm pretty happy with that. Sorry about that. But the reason I'm not 100% happy with it is because it's not going to look nice when this goes down in size. Actually, it looks alright. Never mind me. But it doesn't look the best there. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to make a few assumptions. We're going to make a few assumptions, which is we're going to limit the option size to 20 characters. Are we going to do that? Here's what I mean. If I put here lorem ipsum $, if I put there the whole lorem ipsum and I put Discord here, and I create this poll and I vote for it, and then I view to, it looks shit because it's too long. So this is what I was worried about, and it seems my worry was not unfounded. So I get the feeling that for something like this, using a table is going to be the way to do it. So let's create a table. And then each one of these is going to be a TR. No. Each one of those is not going to be a TR, and indeed the table is not going to be there either. This is going to be a TR. This is going to be TDs. And the table is going to go down here. That's the one. Yes. But we've lost part of our table. Why? We've lost part of our table because there is a small black line there. I'm not sure if it shows up on the stream. But that's the extent of our graph so far. It's not very big. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that the graph cell or column has as much width as possible. So HTML table, make column as big as possible. Let's see. So people are saying to set the width manually. That's not very nice. Because if we do that, if we set vote chart container to have a width of 100%, what's going to happen? that. That's going to happen, which is not great. So we don't want that. But what do we want? We want to give it... Well, what it's doing now is... what it's doing now is correct, in that it's taking up as much space as possible and taking away as much space as possible from the other texts. If we do that, that's not what we want. If we do that, that's not what we want. I guess what I'm looking for is for these to have a bit more room. So we'll set the width here to 50%. Yeah. And if we set the width to 50% and the padding left to 20 pixels, then that's going to do more or less what we want. It's going to take up, it's going to try to take up 50% of the width. And if it can't, then, well, this is going to now have a bit more room, I guess. Okay, now let's align things up. So we'll do HTML, table, align, top, v-align. There we go. Really? We have to set that in the HTML directly? Yes, we do. Okay, that's not great. Not a big fan of that. Deprecated. Oh no. This is not what we want. W3 schools, you have failed me. Maybe that's better. I just keep forgetting. Vote chart. No, vote option. TD. Vertical align top. That's the one. Yeah, that's the one. Okay, we're somewhere. We're getting somewhere now. Okay, next up, we're going to give this a slightly bigger piece of size, rather. So instead of pole 1 here, we're going to put it inside an H1. Just like that. Is that the same size that it is in other poles? Yep, H1. Perfect. We're going to indent that a bit, so it shows that it's inside the container as well. So there we have that, and then we have the create new pole button there that is going to be inside a div of right button container to match the others. Like that, and this link is going to have the same look as the other links, which is a class of link that. Perfect. That's looking a bit nicer, isn't it? So we have our graph there. We've got our different options. I'm going to separate them a little bit. So the vote option, yeah, there. Margin bottom is going to be 15 pixels, let's say. Doesn't work with tables. So table row margin bottom. You need to use padding. Man, tables are awful. tables are so bad. So you're telling me they have to be in there? Yeah, so each table cell needs to have padding in order to separate them. Okay, but that's pretty good there. Now the background color in the vote chart there is at the moment black. We don't like that. So we're going to do border 1px solid black. And the background color is instead going to be this nice gold. Perfect. And that's nice. That's a nice extra that it shows that it has nothing at all, which is good. Brilliant. So that's looking a bit better. Next thing we want to do is we want to make sure to show the percentage there by putting the percentage symbol there. And we want to try to get rid of the 0.0 there. Ginger to round to integer. Maybe we just do this. That works. Brilliant. I think we're getting somewhere. What do you think, guys? Maybe we can actually use this one day. So we can create new polls. And when you create one, you end up in the vote. Oh, the poll, rather. Poll 1. Yeah, that's nice. So I think the only last thing missing is to have an admin panel where you can view the polls that you have created. I think that would be a nice addition to this. Certainly make my life much easier when we're creating polls. So in order to be able to do that, we're going to need to make sure that when we create a poll, we store who created the poll so that you'll know who has access to view them. And at the moment, our polls does not store who created them. So we will do owner text. So that's going to create a extra column in the polls table, which is the owner, and the owner is going to be the username of the Discord user that is currently logged in. So when we create a poll here, we're going to insert into polls the title and the owner, and the values are going to be question mark, title, and session username. Except we're gonna also include the owner discriminator, since multiple Discord people can have the same username. So we're gonna make sure that the little number in Discord is also included, which means we do have to set the owner discriminator as text there as well. Okay, let's delete. Let's disconnect, delete data.db, delete it. Why not? That's a very helpful error message. Oh, maybe because I'm still running there. Stop running. There we go. Okay, so we clear the database. And now in the database, we're storing the owner and the owner number. And what we can do is go into app.py and have a thing in the nav bar that allows us to go to to manage your polls, let's say. So I'll put it in here. So if the session username is not set, we're telling the user to log in. Otherwise, we're going to show them that they can manage their polls or that they are already logged in. So here, the URL for is going to be manage polls. And we're going to send the users there. But that does mean that in app.py, we do need this. So let's have a look, see if this works. So I am logged in, and therefore I can see the manage polls there, and that's that. Now I'm also going to go ahead and add a logout button, because some people like that. So I'll show you guys how to log out. If you go to app.py, we'll create here another endpoint for logout that returns session clear and then return a redirect to URL4 of home. So it's going to send us back to the home page there, which is basically empty, but it's going to clear the session first, which is going to remove everything from the session, which means we will no longer be logged in because we will no longer have the username of the user stored in the session. So there we are. We've got our menu there. I can log out. Now I'm no longer logged in. All those menu things disappear. I can log back in with Discord. And now the session data gets stored in my app. Oh, I do need to fix this actually. And the redirect URI. So this one there. Okay. Log in with Discord. There we go. Okay, so we found another error. That's okay. But at least we know that the header works. So if session poll ID, yeah, that makes sense. And down here in our code, we're checking for session poll ID, but poll ID is not set because it only gets set when you access a poll, and we haven't done that recently. So we'll actually do .get. And that's just gonna check, basically. Okay. So we have another problem, which is that this is causing an error because we don't have any polls at the moment. And because we don't have any polls, when we do fetch one, then that breaks. So we'll do latest poll there. If latest poll, if not latest poll, we'll return redirect to URL for create poll. Latest poll ID equal latest poll 0. So if there is no poll, because this doesn't return anything, then we're going to return a redirect to the create poll address. Otherwise, we're going to continue as we did before. So there we end up in the create new poll. I'm looking at this menu and I'm thinking it's a bit crowded. So I'm going to change a couple of things in there. We're going to move the logout to before the username. So the logo is going to go in front. And there we're going to just put the username. Yes, and this is no longer going to be an A tag. It's just going to be a div. Yes. Is it? No, let's just keep it simple and keep it as an A tag. There we go. Yeah. Okay, that's a bit better now because we've just removed a bunch of text, basically. Okay, so if we go to the manage polls link, we get nothing at the moment, so we do have to create that. So we'll do manage polls.html, and what this is going to do is it's just going to be a very simple page that shows the polls that the user has created and a link for each, so you can go and view it. So it's going to be essentially like the view poll page, really. Except here, instead of this table-like structure, we're going to keep this button actually create new. We're going to do for poll in polls, and we're going to receive that data. And in here, we're going to create a div. And this div is going to be for an individual poll. So we'll say class poll. And here we're going to put the poll name, which is probably going to be poll 1. And then we're going to include a link to view it. So we'll say href URL for view poll, where the poll ID is going to be poll 0. Like that, view poll. So if we do that right now, this won't work because we do have to restart the app. But of course, if we run this, we're going to get an error. Once we're actually using the template, of course, which we're not doing right now. So we're going to return render template of manage polls.html, except we don't need the .html there. Do we? Oh, yes, we do. Never mind. .html. Okay. In order to pass in, so now if we do this, we get nothing because we have no data that we're passing in. So we do need to go ahead and get the polls. So we'll do something like this, but we're going to do select star from polls where owner equal that and owner discriminator equal that. And these two values are going to be the session username and the session discriminator, I think it's called. Yep. Yeah, there we go. So select stuff from polls where the owner and the discriminator match those in the session. And then we will return that polls equal poll cursor.fetch all. Just like that. Perfect. So at the moment we don't have any polls because we haven't created any. Test poll, option 1, option 2. So if we create a poll, there we have that. Oh, that doesn't look right. Let's fix that in a moment. But now we can go to manage polls and you can see that we've got the test poll there and we can view it. Okay, we've got a few problems in here, but that's okay. So we created the poll. And what did we insert into the options? That looked really bizarre. That seems okay. The data in here seems okay. But here in the view poll, what's this 7106? Vote for option 3. All right, set a breakpoint there. And let's see what we've got. Oh, that's my discriminator. That makes sense, because now we've got more data stored on each option. No, we've got more data stored on each poll, and so now our numbers have to change slightly. So this is clearly something that we've done wrong in our application. We've used indices like 0 and 1 instead of names of the rows. But that's what happens when you do things like this without testing and without doing things properly. But that's okay. So we can go to latest.html, and instead of option 3, we need to add 2, so that becomes option 5. Instead of option 2, this becomes option 4. Perfect. That's everything we have to do. Brilliant. So now we can vote, and it's all good. We voted for 1. So now if we go back, here we can manage the polls, and we can go to test poll, and we can view it, and you can see now that option 1 has 100% of the 100% of the votes. Now, we're noticing here that because the text now is very small and all the columns are left aligned, that this is not taking up the entire available space. We're going to change that. How we're going to change that is we're going to go over to style.css, and here we were setting the width to 50%, but we're going to set the width to 100%. Are we going to set the width to 100%? No, we're not. How are we going to do this? What do we want it to do, I guess? We want it to grow. We want it to grow while still giving enough room to the text here. And we're back at the same problem that we had before. Often when you're wrestling with an HTML problem like this one, you always feel like the solution is almost within reach, but you can't quite grasp it. And right now I'm feeling like there must be some really easy way of doing this that I'm just completely forgotten about. Giovanni, I see you've joined the Discord, so thanks for that. Welcome. So what we want to do here, you guys have any ideas? Maybe what we want to do, we can try this, see if this will do it. Give the vote name a min width of fit content, and this a width of 100%. No. See, if we give it a width of 100%, then it's going to grow, but it's going to try to take up the space from these. This is pretty intense. Hey Shady. You are not too late. We're struggling with some CSS. You're quite alright. We've got some stuff working. We've got some graphs for our polls. But we're trying to figure out how to make this graph as big as possible while still giving reasonable amounts of space to the text here. And maybe it's just a matter of doing width 25%. And this one with 100%. Yeah, maybe we'll do that and save ourselves the hassle. We do need to inspect. There we go. I think that's going to be acceptable, at least to me. Remember, guys, this is an internal tool that's built in about 5 hours. So what we've got there, Shady, is we have this structure in the body, and I know this is a bit small, so let me zoom in. We've got a table for each with a row for each of the options, and then each option has 3 columns: the option name, the percentage that it has out of the total, and then a column for the chart. And the chart is just a div that we style with 100% of the width, and then or rather we style with a width of the percentage. So in this case it's 100%, but if this had like 50% of the votes, then it would be 50%. And then we've given this a height and a background color and a border so that it looks like that, as you can see here. And so that's how we've made this really simple bar chart. And this one you can see that it has a width of 0%, but because it has the border, then it looks like that black line. But if this was 50%, then this would essentially take up half of the available space. Lol. All right. Well, that's good enough for me. Thanks, man. Thanks for sticking around. Then we've also added this button to manage polls, which lets you see the polls that you've got and view them. You can create a new poll, you can log out, and then you can log back in. So it's all looking pretty close to something usable, actually, which is nice. So I think we're going to try to deploy this and see if it works. We do have to make a couple of changes, actually. One of the problems with our solution at the moment that we can actually fix right now. We're going to import OS, and then here, instead of hardcoding this redirect URI, we're going to use OS environ.get Discord auth redirect. And we're going to default to the existing URL if necessary. Where's this used? That's for the button. That makes sense. So here we're gonna put the osenviron.get discord auth redirect, or this, we're actually going to take it out. Out of that. And we're going to put in there. But if you remember, this now is going to be essentially containing all these characters. And what we had before is we have the URL essentially converting to HTML encoded characters there. So like %3a instead of a colon and whatnot. And so we have to do the same thing here. And we're going to use URL encode. So how do we do that? Python URL encode. Convert a mapping object or sequence of 2-element tuples. I don't think we want that. Escape. This is URL lib quote plus. Perfect. Python URL lib quote plus. It seems like that's what we want. Or maybe quote. Yeah, I think we can use quote. So we'll do from URL lib parse. What? Just like that. That'll do it. Okay, so now we can use an environment variable to store the redirect URL instead of the default one there. All right, so let's stop this. Go back to the terminal, add everything, and then commit. So add a bunch of stuff. This is terrible commit messages, by the way. You should not use commit messages like these. But now that we've got that, we can go back in here and we can try to deploy it and then see if it wants to work. This one. Let's try it out. And I'm gathering a few tabs there, so just going to close them. But let's see if it works. If it does work, we'll still have the same problems that Heroku causes, which is periodic deletion of your data. But for a stream to create a poll and run it, then it's probably going to be enough. Also, I forgot that we also have to implement the pick a winner functionality. So maybe we'll do that next. Okay, so while this is deploying, we can go ahead and pick a winner. So we'll create a new endpoint. For a given poll. What this is going to do is it's going to go through all the votes in a poll and pick a winner out of presumably the correct vote. So first of all, we have to know what the correct vote is. This is going to be a bit more tricky than we thought. Let's try this out first. Let's try the deployment out first. Okay, so you do have to make sure to delete the cache. And there we go. We can create a poll, but we won't be able to actually create it, or it'll give us an error if you don't log in first. So you don't have to log in first. You can authorize. And of course, it doesn't work because... All right, no worries, Shady. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you around and see you later. Have fun. It doesn't work because we didn't define the environment variable that we need. So we are going to add it in, but just in case that there's something a bit secret here, no, there's nothing secret in there, so we can go back. So here we're going to add the environment variable that we needed, Discord auth redirect, and the value is going to be this /authorize, and we're going to add that in. Okay, so when we do that, we do have to redeploy. So let's redeploy. Okay, so while that's doing that, let's think about the picking a winner. We can pick a winner if we pass in the poll ID and the option ID. So with the poll ID and the option ID, we can say this option in this poll is the correct. Actually, we only need option ID because the option IDs are unique. So out of the voters that voted for this option, the winner will be one of them. So let's just pick a random one. So we'll say select star from votes where vote equal, let's say 1 to begin with. So you can see there is the vote, which is the option ID. So we've got vote equal 1. Then we're going to go into Google and say SQL select random and see if we can find a way of doing it. This did not work. Order by rand. Order by random. So we're going to be using Postgres or SQLite, and fortunately, they use the same function, so order by random in both cases. So we'll copy that. So order by random limit 1. There we go. So I'm always going to be the winner at the moment because I'm also the only voter. But this query will give us what we want. Yeah, it seems pretty cool, isn't it? You can actually order by random, which I'm not really sure what it means, to be honest, because where's the actual... Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. But maybe it works. Yeah. I'm not sure why it works, but we'll find out if it does. Well, actually, I'm not sure if we will find out. It could be that we're always picking the top 1% and we'll never know. We'll never know. Vote is question mark. There we go. So this is primarily for me to use in the streams, so it doesn't need to return anything pretty at the moment. We can do more of that later on. But okay, we've got ourselves the thing deployed, which means that now I should be able to log in with Discord, and it should send me back. Brilliant. Sends me back. So that's perfect. Although it didn't seem to do anything. It didn't seem to store anything there. The menu should have changed. But it didn't change. Why not? Let's get rid of that. The menu should have changed. If not session username, then we do that. But we do have a session username because we just went through the authorize. Unless unless it didn't like something. Oh yeah, that's not right. It didn't encode the forward slashes. It didn't encode the forward slashes, so that's probably why. Why it didn't work. And I don't think quote plus is going to do it either. Oh yes, it will. The optional save parameter specifies blah blah blah. The default value is forward slash. So the forward slash is deemed to be safe, except it's not in this case. So we can do quote of this, but without safe. So safe equal empty string so that none of them are safe, and that should take care of encoding the forward slashes. I think so. All right. I think that's gonna work. So the next thing and the final thing that we're gonna do today is we're gonna take the view poll and we're going to add an extra button to pick a winner out of the options if we are the owner. So we'll say if owner viewing, then we will add a TD here that has an a href URL for pick winner, where option ID is going to be equal to option 3, I want to say, 0, 1, 2, 2. 2? Oh, never mind. These votes are coming in from somewhere else. View here. So it's coming from here. Option text, the count, and the percentage. We also need, for each option, we need the option ID. So we'll say options dot option ID. Yes. So now in here we will do 1, 3, 3 like that, and this will be 0. That. Just like that. We also need the owner viewing argument. So we'll go back to app.py, and when we are viewing a poll, we're going to need to find out the poll owner. So owner viewing is going to be poll 3, I believe. 2, the owner and the discriminator. So 3, 2 and 3, 0, 1, 2 and 3. 2 equal session username and poll 3 equal session discriminator. And then we'll just pass that in. Yeah, that should do it. Let's run this, make sure it's working before we push. So manage polls, we can view the poll, and you can see that we get the pick winner there. Which is nice, it doesn't look the best. But if we log out, and then we go to view 1, uh-oh. There we go. Oh, no, that's not what we wanted. This is what we want. Now we don't get the button because we're not logged in. If we log in again and we view it, then we get the button again. So perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. Now we can pick a winner, and the winner is me. I win this time. But hopefully that's picking a random one. But I'm not sure if it is, but we can test that out next time. Yeah. Maybe just to make it a little bit more clear, we should also pass in or get all of the voters for a given option, so that we'll know whether it's always one of them or the first one or not. So what we'll do is we will select star from votes, where the vote is that. And we also need the discriminator, of course. If we are to contact this person on Discord later on, we need to be able to identify them. So we'll do that. Yeah. So now, instead of doing this, we're going to return render template, winner.html. The voters are the voters, and the winner username is random winner 0, and the winner discriminator is random winner 1. There we go. And we need to create winner.html. So let's do that, winner.html. And that is going to be based on, let's say, manage polls. Yeah. So we'll do that. And here we're going to have a button to pick another winner, because it happened a few times in the past. We picked a winner and it turns out that winner had already won something before, and we didn't want to duplicate prizes or give a person 2 prizes. So we wanted to pick more winners. So I'm going to add a button here to pick another winner. But before here, we're going to add a div for the voters. And this is actually not going to be a div. This is going to be an unordered list where each element is going to be the voter 0. So for voter in voters, we're going to do this and 4. And the voters here are selecting star from votes, where voter 0 is the username. So that's going to give us the username of each person that voted. And here we're going to have a paragraph that says the winner is winner username, winner discriminator. There we go. Then we have all the voters, and in here we're going to have a button for pick winner with option ID equal to the option ID, which should be a variable, and this is going to be pick new winner. So we do need the option ID to be passed in here, so we'll pass it in. All right. You can see that once you've got the data flow sort of mapped out in your head, it is easier to add more of these pages. So I'm going to restart the app there, and then we're going to refresh this. Yes, exactly, Rich. It should help see if the random is working. Whenever we have more than one winner, that should show us whether it's always the same person or not. So that's really good. Okay, so that seems to be working. At least it's picking winners, and at the moment there's only one vote. And I only have one Discord account. So the next step is going to be to stop that and deploy it and get you guys to vote, and then we'll try it out. So I'll just push that up to GitHub, and then we'll deploy this again. Plus, we've also fixed the authorization issue that we had a moment ago by using the safe parameter there. So this should work, I think. Less than 150 lines, and it's 150 lines of Python code. And it's looking pretty alright, I think. It's mostly HTML though. It's all the HTML and CSS that makes it look acceptable. By the way, quick question, guys. I can put the chat on the side of the screen. Would that be something that's interesting? I'm just saying because sometimes I speak to the chat, but it's not so obvious that I'm doing that. So if the chat was appearing on the side, would that take away a lot of from the coding, or? So this is almost deployed now. All right, there we go. We are deployed. Let's go to it. So we can create a poll, log in with Discord. We're gonna log in. There we go. I don't think this worked again. It doesn't show as logged in, I'm afraid. So something is wrong, definitely. Let's have a look, see if there's any logs here in Heroku that we can... here, view logs. No logs. Authorize. Discord author redirect. This seems okay, doesn't it? HTTPS teclado-polls.herokuapp.com authorize. That chat does not look good at the moment. That's pretty awful. We need to I need to do something like this, I guess. Yeah, the chat can show up here. We need to make it look a bit nicer, of course. But does the chat show up in the recording later? If I don't show it up on the screen, no. So the chat is at the moment hidden. But on YouTube, you do see the live chat replay on the side. So you can still read the chat if you want. But it won't show up on the screen. So that's something. Although the chat doesn't seem to be going away. That's a bit bizarre. So we need to make sure that this is the correct link. Overview. Yeah, so we changed that. So that should have fixed something. And then we have https://teclado-polls.herokuapp.com. So I'm just comparing this with the actual URL /authorize. And it seems correct. Teclado-polls. Wait, %2f in HTML. Yeah, %2f is the /, so this is all correct. Does it match this? Because this worked earlier on. https://teclado-polls.herokuapp.com/authorize. That also seems correct. If you can still read it on the side when not watching live, then it probably doesn't need to be on the screen too. Yeah, that's what I thought as well. That's why I didn't show it earlier on. Fair enough, man. We'll keep it hidden for now. So this all seems correct. But evidently, this is not being set correctly. Which could mean... I think I know what the problem is. That is silly. That is very silly. In my secrets.py file, we're also accessing the environment variable of Discord secret key, but that's not set on Discord. So we're going to have to set it first of all, and then redeploy. So that was silly. Definitely need that. I'm just going to set it on the side, just so it's not on the video. So yeah, that's going to happen a lot. So I've set it on the side now, which does mean that now my settings section does have some secret information, but that's okay. So we are just deploying now, and now for the final time, I hope, it should work. So we can vote on some polls in a moment. What should we vote on? Brexit. Donald Trump. Should only take a moment. So I'm going to be closing some of these other tabs while we do that. Don't need that. By the way, this is all the code here in this public repository that you guys can access if you want. And always feel free to, if you make any changes and you want to push them back to the main repo, you can always make a pull request, and I'll more than happy to take a look and offer any suggestions or take a look at the code if you want to make any contributions. All right, we are deployed. Yes, we are. So let's see if it'll want to work now. Login with Discord, authorize. Yay! We got it. So now we can create a poll which can be something like something like this. And then you can vote on it. So I will send a link in the chat. If you can give it a vote, then we can see whether all of this stuff is working or not. Actually, no, we won't. No, we won't be able to see it. Damn. I really thought it was gonna let me. But I guess not. Internal server error. Does not like me. Let's take a look at the logs. Votes cursor. Operational error. Oh, I think we messed up some query. This error is absolute garbage. That's good. It let you log in and vote. But I get the feeling that the over thing doesn't work. Shouldn't be a problem. Do we have any other syntax error? Let's have a look. Maybe we made a mistake. Nope, seems to work. Seems to work here. That's good. It let you vote. Syntax error near opening bracket. Amazing. Such a helpful error message. I cannot believe it. Near opening bracket. Which means that either count, some, count, or over. Yeah, I saw that too, I think. I saw the you voted for. Yeah. So that's there. But then it doesn't let me view the poll. I get the feeling that it's this. Although now I'm wondering, what's this sum doing? What's the sum for? I don't think that does anything. Can we get rid of it? Yeah, as we can. I don't think it's the sum anyway, but I think it's the over. What happens if we remove the over? See, I don't know what that over was doing. I have no idea. No idea what it means. Do we know what it means? Do we know what over means? Let's have a look at this. That makes sense. That's a nice diagram. That makes sense. But do we need that? I'm gonna add a new row. There. No, I want to submit. There. Okay, so now if we run this... Ah, I see. They're both getting 100%. If we do this, now they're getting 50%. So that makes sense. Except, I don't know what it makes sense. Percentage. So without this, each count is for the group. But with that, the counts, or this column rather, is not for the group. It's for each individual one. Interesting. It would be nice to find out when it was added. When the over keyword was added to SQLite, because maybe Heroku's running an old version or something. SQLite adds support for window functions. Okay, there's a piece of news here from last year. Actually, that's very new. Actually, that's very new. It is possible that Heroku is not running a version that's old enough. Heroku update SQLite. Maybe we just need to start the SQLite version. Maybe we just need to start using Postgres. The benefit of using Postgres is that the data won't disappear every time we restart, so that we're actually going to have to do that eventually anyway. So let's add a Postgres here. Okay. We have ourselves a Postgres database. So the only thing we have to do now is wherever we have data.db, well, and also wherever we have SQLite 3, we have to swap it over for a Postgres connector. I didn't want to do that at this point. PsychoPG2 is what we'll use to connect to Postgres. Which means we will also need cursors everywhere. We'll no longer be able to do connection execute. That's unfortunate. Okay. Requirements.txt psychopg2. We're gonna need that. But here on Windows, we're going to install psychopg2-binary, just because it's a little bit easier to work with. Cool. So then every place that we are connected to the database, we're going to use psychopg2 now. But the first thing we're going to do is do database URI is equal to os environ.get database URI. We need a database URI there, or it's going to default to PostgreSQL or Postgres? Can't remember. Let me see. Need to take that away though, I'm afraid. Postgres. Colon // Postgres 1234 at localhost 5432 polling. So this is a connection string in Postgres. So we're going to try to use the Postgres username with a 1234 password at the local host of the current computer, port 5432, which is the default in Postgres, and then we're going to connect to the polling database once we're connected. Or if we can, we're going to use the database URI environment variable, which has already been set. Actually, it's called database, not database URI. Let me have a look. Yes. So that's that. Fortunately, I already have Postgres. Running, so it should be fair enough. I'll just create a new database called polling. Pardon me. So we create a new database there. The owner is going to be Postgres. There we go. So, that's that. In the create tables here, we're going to have to do the same. Just temporarily. And now we are going to do, instead of that, we're going to do psychobg2.connect database URI as connection. Connection.cursor. And then we're going to use the cursor to execute. So I think that's everything we need to do for that. Let me see. Yeah. Yes. Like this. So this is going to take care of opening and closing the connection to the database, and this is going to take care of committing or rolling back the results. So we're going to have to do this basically every time we use the database. So here, for example, we're going to have to do it here, for example. We are going to have to do it there. And also here. So we'll see if we need to make any further changes. Maybe we need to make some smaller changes too. No, I think it should be fine actually. Except we don't need that. So we just tell the cursor to execute that and then we'll fetch it. We can do it like that. There we go. There we go with that. Perfect. Perfect. Okay, I think we are almost there. It'd be interesting to see if this works, the last row ID. We can do execute many, which is good, so we could in SQLite. Excellent. You can see now how all of this stuff that we were doing is somewhat suboptimal when we're having to change all of this code. But anyway. We're no longer using SQLite 3 anyway, so we'll import PsychoPG2. Let's try to restart this. See what happens. I'll bring this up. Schemas, public, tables. We have our tables, so they have been created successfully. Nice. Now we can see if this will work. Create poll. Test poll Postgres. 1, 2, submit. No. Yes, Postgres does not use the question mark. What does Postgres use? Let me see. Passing parameters to SQL queries. %s. So we have to go in and change all the queries. How do we do this? Not that. There. For %s. So replace that one, 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 and that one, that one, and that one. Not that one though. That's it. Ooh. We didn't do that right. Connection.execute is not being used anyway. Perfect. Okay, let's do that again. Let's restart. Null value in column poll ID violates non-null constraint. Not what we want. Okay, so I think in Postgres we have to specify the primary key. Postgres primary key auto increment. Yes, serial, that's it. It's not integer, it's serial primary key. Okay, so there we go. We do need to go and delete all these tables. Can we do that? Drop. Okay. Let's try again. None type object has no attribute fetch all. Okay, so you can't do that. That's annoying. You can't do that because when you do cur.execute, that modifies cur. It does not return itself. So you can't call fetch1 on itself. So what we're going to have to do is for all of these, do that. So execute the query first and then assign it using fetch1. So here we'll have to do the same. Execute the query first and then assign it using fetch all in this case. So I'll just have to go through and do that for all of them. That's mildly inconvenient. Okay, that's that one. That one's okay. Not the most exciting thing to be seeing, I'm sure. Nonetheless, something you have to do every now and then, eh? Okay. This could have all been avoided, by the way, if we had a slightly better structure for our database interactions. And what I mean by that is we should have had the database interactions in a separate file, and this app.py should have used that file so that then we wouldn't have to go through all our endpoints changing things. We only had to change things in one file. That would have been much, much better. But I thought, since we're doing this quick and dirty, that it would be fine. But now we're seeing that we could have still saved ourselves some work. Okay, I think we've got some sort of type mismatch thing. I think SQL Alchemy might be a bit overkill rich for this. We don't even have like classes for the different things that our app is dealing with, like options, polls, and votes. So I think it would add actually a bit of complexity. Maybe if it grows more, it could make sense, yeah. At the moment, I think it would add more complexity than help solve. We could make things easier by getting PsychoPG2 or SQLite return dictionaries instead of tuples. Then it would have been a bit easier to work with rather than having all the numbers floating around all the time. But yeah. So the problem is the vote here is a text, but really it should be an integer. Same here. Just so they match the option IDs and so forth. Yeah. So now we have to go back into pgadmin, delete the tables again. I know this is all a bit small. It is a bit small for me as well. Let's restart that. Try again. List index out of range. Well, don't we love that? Poll 01. We are in app.py line 80, so here. Select start from polls, join options. We can go into the database. I'm going to stop that one. We're going to add another data source. Postgres. Postgres at localhost, Postgres 1234. Apply. Okay. What? One second. Database polling. Okay. Introspect. That sounds fancy. And so there we go. We have this. Can we run that? What? Oh yeah. What? Relation public.polls does not exist. I don't think so. There we go. We had the wrong database selected, so that's why. So now it's saying that, my god, this is getting a bit messy now. Let me get rid of that. Let me get rid of that. Now it's saying that it tried to access this, but it couldn't. Because list index out of range. So presumably either 0 or 1 were out of range. And we got here by creating the poll. So, create poll, where did you go? In create poll, we did with that, insert, and we inserted everything. And then we inserted that into options. So in theory, we should have 2 options and a poll. 2 options and a poll, except the poll ID is 1 and the option poll IDs are 0. So then when we went up here and we selected star from polls join options, we got nothing. So why did the options get a value of 0? Because what we thought might happen, cur.lastRowID didn't quite work. So PostgreSQL last row inserted ID. Yes. Insert blah 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 returning ID. Brilliant. That's actually quite nice, I think. So we can do insert into polls, that returning poll ID, I think it's called. Poll ID, that's right. And then what do we get back? Because we're not going to get back last row ID. I think we need to try this out. So I'm going to set a breakpoint there. We're in debug mode. We're going to go over to here. I'm going to create a poll test. Blah, blah, blah. Submit. Now we're stopped in here. I'm going to do cur. This is the query that we inserted. Fetch 1. Okay, so fetch 1 is going to give me the row returned. 0 is going to give me the value returned. So cur fetch 1 0. Okay, we may continue. Let's restart. Oh, there we go. We got it. Oh no, this is not working either. Options or option ID must appear in the group by clause or be used in an aggregate function. So I think this is the problem we had earlier with the over. So this is line 107. Yeah, it's this. It's that. So we closed the tab that we needed. So how did we Google it earlier on? Count. Something like that. Yay, we found it. He doesn't like it. Error. Column options option ID must appear in the group by clause. Yeah. Or be used in an aggregate function. Maybe we made a mistake earlier and SQLite was just a bit too nice to us. That is possible. So what we've got here... Ah, yes, this makes sense. We've done something that we cannot do. Maybe this is why it wasn't working. Only SQLite didn't give us the nice error. Yeah, I think this was the problem. We're grouping by option text, which means that we're potentially collapsing multiple options into a single row, but we're trying to get individual values of options with option ID. So we can't do that. But we can do that. But maybe we can do that. Seems to run, so that's something at least. Let's go back to app and put the group by there as well. Yeah, let's try that. Yeah, so nothing. Least index out of range. Line 80 now. Okay. We're getting somewhere, we're getting somewhere. What are we getting here? Nothing. Nothing because we have no options. Yes, we have no options. Okay, but we do have options here. So we made a mistake earlier. We need to delete the database and recreate it. But now we can vote for that. And then can we view 3? Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Okay, okay. We're getting somewhere, I think. we are getting somewhere. Can we drop? Yes, we can. Let's drop everything and try again. Drop everything and try again. Create poll. Test poll. 1, 2. Submit. Okay, so that worked. Now we can vote. That's good. Now we can view poll 1. That works. Brilliant. We can log out. We can log back in. Excellent. Okay. We're good. Let's try it out. So let me stop that, let me stop that, hide that and that. And the last thing is we have to make sure that we're using the right database. So that's the database environment variable, or the local, Now I'm just gonna check that the thing here in Heroku is correct, which it is. Brilliant. So let's commit and try it out. Swap over to Postgres. So that's now pushed. We're gonna go here and deploy it. Something I mentioned earlier is that in Heroku you could use psychopg2 instead of psychopg2-binary. Here I've installed psychopg2-binary because it's easy to work with, but here in Heroku we're using psychopg2. Now also the benefit is that the data is going to go into this separate database. This resource, Heroku Postgres. It's no longer going to go into the local disk. That means that the data is going to remain it's going to exist in between runs, which is going to be nice. We only have 10,000 rows here in Heroku Postgres, but that's going to be okay for now. We can do some magic later on to delete rows that we no longer need and things like that. We can do a cleanup script, if you like, just to keep it free. We are online. We did all this work, and I think the problem... we did all this work, and I think the problem was something else. Okay, so internal server error. That's weird. No Python application found. I know what the problem is. Problem is that I'm an idiot. I checked and checked and checked again about 10 times, and this should be database URL. The environment variable that Heroku created for us was database URL, not database. So we will need to do a redeploy. Beautiful. Hey Faizan, welcome. Thanks for tuning in. We are actually almost done, because we've managed to do quite a lot in this session, and we're about to deploy the finished app. And when I say finished, that's a bit of an overstatement. The app, I guess, not the finished app. But the you voted for one should definitely be fixed as well. We can fix it pretty easily. And now with this Postgres, actually, we can do insert into votes, blah, blah, blah. Actually, no. Fine, we'll do it the nice way. Cur execute, select start from. Select, what are we selecting? From options, we are picking option text. That. Option text from options, where option ID is equal to vote. Yeah, that should do it. We'll do that after though. We are now deployed, so we can go into here and hopefully no error. Yay, no errors. Brilliant. Manage polls, no polls. Here we can create a new one. Test poll 1, 2, submit. Vote for 1, submit. I voted. Faizan, Spanish also has strong Arabic roots, and I'm Spanish. So it's, I guess, more or less the alphabet, at least, or the way of pronouncing certain things must be similar. So it seems to work, which is good. Let's create one and go for our usual Discord versus Slack. Discord or Slack. Submit. Let's vote. But you guys can vote in here as well. No personal data is collected. I mean, you've seen me develop the code, so you know that. Even if we wanted to collect some personal data, we probably have like 10 internal server errors in the process. So, but we're gonna fix this. Muy bien, very, very good. Do you speak Spanish, Faizan? So we're here. We're gonna try to create a poll. Test poll 1, 2. Vote for 1. There we go. So that's a bit nicer. So a little bit nicer there. Hope you guys are voting. We're gonna see what you guys prefer. 50-50. Oh no. No, see, I can see a problem here now that I don't know how many votes it is. So I know it's 50-50, but it could be 2 and 2, 4 and 4, 10 and 10. I don't think it's 10 and 10. But anyway, you guys can vote on that link there. If it's 50-50, that doesn't bode too well for the Discord server that we've got. Maybe we should have a Slack server, which we used to have, but nobody used it. So that suggests that people do prefer Discord. Tell me I'm wrong. All right. So now the benefit is we can go ahead and deploy again. This will keep running while it deploys, and then there'll be a small switch where it temporarily will go down for a moment, and then we will use a new version of the app the next time. Yes, Faizan, we need Discord because the purpose of this app is to allow my Discord server members to vote on quizzes and things like that during the live stream so that we can then do giveaways. In order to do a giveaway, we need to be able to contact these people, and we figured that the easiest way was to add a Discord integration. That way, when you vote, if you win, we'll just contact you on Discord and send you the prices, whatever they may be. All right, Rich, that's good. In that case, Discord wins so far. But yeah, it seems to work. So then we can pick a winner here, and we have a winner, which is brilliant. And then we have a winner. Oh, you won again. Picking a winner. Hey, it seems to be random. I'm not saying anything, but at least the two people there are being random. So that's pretty good. Yeah. So guys, by the way, feel free to use this if you want. Like, I know the URL is not the nicest, teclado-polls.herokuapp.com. It's not the URL that you want to tell your friends when you're on a night out. But yeah, feel free to use it if you want. It's free. Although your voters will need a Discord account. But anyway, it's about 9:30 my time. Been streaming for a few hours now. 3.5 hours. Holy shit. So we're gonna call it a day here, but I think it's looking pretty good. So if you guys have any questions or anything like that, oh, that's my alarm. If you guys have any questions or anything, let me know. Do follow me on Twitter. It's at @tecladocode. The link is in the description of this video. Join the Discord server. The link is also in the description of this video. We'd be thrilled to have you in the Discord. We chat about programming and we help each other and all that stuff. If you also are thinking about learning programming and you are thinking about taking a course, you can do so. We've got a bunch of courses and that cover a few different topics. Just ask in the Discord server and we'll point you in the right direction. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed it. I know it's been a bit of a long one, and I know that these streams are maybe not the most engaging, but nonetheless, this is really how you get to see how I work, and we get to have a bit of fun and a bit of banter doing it. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. All right, guys.